Okay, space detectives, paranormal police, pareidolia police, and quasi-scientific people that deny life on any other planet than Earth, which I find very strange. Today, this is an update on basically on the UFOs that have been put up recently on various channels like mine. There was the bright UFO, which was this one, which was about a week or so ago, and a few days ago there was also this one, which was the bird UFO, or whatever it is, which was also very recent, just a few days ago. Now, what I did, I thought to myself, right, now it does seem that, I mean, both these UFOs were spotted by this ridgeline here, using the nav cam, which is basically the camera on the Rover, which is below the mast cam. The mast cam is the main camera. The nav cam is below that, and there's loads of other cameras as well. But this one takes sort of fairly low res, black and white images of the landscape, so that the Rover can navigate around, which it does by itself. It's not driven by someone on Earth. It just navigates its own way around. It has a brain. It has an onboard computer, and just takes constant images and occasionally takes samples as well, and everything else. And basically, I thought what I'd do, I'd go through all the NavCam Right B images for the last few months. So that's what I did. It took me hours and hours last night for about 3 hours. I went through thousands of images going back months, not all of the NavCam images for this year, but a lot of them. I would say about 4 months worth. And most of them are this kind of shape, not all of them, actually some are more square. But I went through all the sort of panoramic ones like this, the sort of the letterbox shaped images, and I found some more UFOs. And the interesting thing is, one of them matches the recent bright UFO, which was published about a week and a half ago, a couple of weeks back. Now, this one was in all the newspapers, and lots of people published it. Quite a few channels have done videos about it, which is all good. The more people that look at it, the better, as far as I'm concerned. This is very interesting. It's on the same ridgeline as the bird. Here's the bird, or so-called bird. I don't think it is a bird, but you know, it's the same ridgeline. Now, I've done videos about these two before, so I'm not going to go into great detail about these, but what I'm going to show you is this one. Now, this one was taken on Sol 2435. These other ones were more recent. The most recent is the bird, 2446, and the bright UFO is 2438, which is 8 days earlier. And then we have this image, which is 3 days before that. Now, this area here is just over to the left of where we were just looking. So if you imagine you're looking at this ridgeline and you turn your head and look back around this way to the left, this is what you see, the mountain. So the Rover hasn't moved very far between these images. It's only literally moved probably about 20 meters or something in the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So it does move very, very slowly, and it often sits in one spot for a whole week and just takes lots and lots of images and samples and stuff. Now, when you look at this up close, this one here, this is very, very similar indeed to this one. Sorry, this one. In fact, I'm going to show you them both now in my graphics processor here. I've taken a roughly same size clip of each one. Now, these are both raw images. They've not been enhanced in any way at all. They've just been cropped from the original image. And this is the previous bright UFO, which is by that dark ridgeline. And let's look at that very quickly. I'll zoom in for you. Now, look at the shape of it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it to negative, because it's actually easier to make out the shape of this object, or whatever it is, when you go negative, because it's a bit hard to, it's very bright and it's a bit glary. So I'm going to go to negative and swap it to negative. Now, instantly, the thing that I found very interesting about this was the little parts to it. It's got a dome on top here with something sticking up here, and it's got a little rounded kind of thing sticking out underneath, and obviously we got the rest of it there. Okay, now pay attention to the dome. Now, this is the new one that I've just spotted in an earlier image from slightly over to the left, which is nearer sort of the Mount Sharp area, looking back towards Mount Sharp. Now, this is literally only weeks ago this photograph was taken, and it's very, very close to this one. It's literally a turn of the head. You turn your head round from right to left slightly and look back, and you would see it. So literally it's the same area, just facing the other way. Okay. Now, this one also has something sticking out the bottom here and a dome on top. It's a bit vague. It's further away, but it's very similar in size to the previous one that I just showed you. So let's turn this one to negative as well and look at the similarities there. Right, now, very, very similar. In fact, I would say probably the same object. Now, the dome on this one is very faint. It is there. It is there, you can see it, but it's very faint. And it also seems that the whole thing may have turned up the other way. Now, what happens if I turn this up the other way? I haven't done this yet, so bear with me. Let's flip it. Let's rotate it 90 and then 90 again. Okay, right. Now we're looking similar because we have the same sort of dome on top with a kind of spiky bit sticking up, like something sticking up there, and something sticking down underneath, but it's much more vague on this one. This one was further away, so the detail is a little bit more sort of pixelated on this one, but it's not bad. Let's get a bit closer. So they look like the same object, but the object has flipped up the other way. Now, if this was a lens flare, or like many people have said, it's a reflection, right? Okay, it could well be a reflection, but a reflection of what? The problem is, when you look at the raw images, let's zoom in a little bit first before we go back to the raw images. I'll explain what I mean. This looks like the same thing. Now, why would a reflection have a curved part here and a curved part here with a little spike on top like that? How would that be a reflection? How does that work? A reflection off a bright rock. Now, there are some bright rocks in this image when you look further down, because it's taken near Mount Sharp, or at least above it, or near Mount Sharp, and there's some very bright sort of structures on Mount Sharp, a lot of which are buildings. So it is possible it could be a sort of lens flare or something like that. But would a lens flare have these little fine details? Let me show you the folder a minute before we go back to the raw images. This is the new one. Now, I've found a couple actually. Here we are. And it's extremely bright. It's as bright as that other bright UFO that's further along to the right. And when you zoom in, you've got it here, see? Now, what worries me about this image is that we have a very reflective area of Mount Sharp here, where the sun's catching it at low light. Probably at dusk or something, and this may be causing a lens flare or some kind of artifact to appear. That is possible, but it doesn't account for the other image, this one here, which has nothing bright in it apart from that. This one here only has one bright thing in it, which is the bright object here. Everything else is almost black or very dark grey. These are black and white images, obviously, but they are taken in near infrared, which means they see hot objects or objects emitting heat. So that has to be taken into consideration when looking at a lot of these images. They see into near infrared. The camera it's got loads of infrared filters on it, which they can use to determine various types of material on the ground and that kind of thing. They're quite useful. So there we have it. There's the Mount Sharp. There's the new one. Let me show you the folder again, because basically these were all taken days apart. This is very different. This one looks more like a bird, and it's black. So this may be unrelated completely. And if you look very carefully, there's another one just here. There's a dot in the background, but it's just a dot, so it could be anything really. But the thing is, people have said, it can't be a bird because there's nothing to eat on Mars. How do you know there's nothing to eat on Mars? Lots of people are saying this. How do we know there's nothing to eat on Mars? We've been told that may have been life billions of years ago or whatever. Okay, whatever. Well, I've found evidence for much more recent life on Mars, so there may be stuff still edible on the ground, including dead creatures and remains. and I've even found lots of bird remains, so this may actually be a bird. When I made the video about it a few days ago, I thought, well, it looks more like these two UFOs that we've got here today. The bird is very straight along the bottom, and I wouldn't expect a bird to do that. I would expect a bird to be more sort of rounded with a beak and things like that. But could this be the same thing? Let's take the now you can actually see that there's a dome on top here, but it's faint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the other clips I've taken and show you the enhancements. So we've got a raw clip here. Let's go through these. This is the raw clip. This is the new one. It's a close up. You can see that spike sticking down there. Now, this is a lot of this is down to pixelation. This would probably be a little bit more smooth in reality, but there aren't a great deal of pixels to work with here. So we're getting very angular parts to this. But look at the dome. That's there. You can see it. It's got a perfect dome on it. Very similar to the other bright UFO, but up the other way, as I said earlier. Here it is closer. You can see it now. It's not very prominent. Let me get that. Actually, let's get that one, because that probably... Oh, we've got it here. Hang on. Yeah. Here it is in negative. Yeah, okay. There it is, closer. You've got the spike sticking down, we've got a dome here, we've got another dome here, and the body. This looks like some kind of flying saucer, like a spinning top, classic spinning top flying saucer. Similar to ones that were spotted on Earth in the 1950s, 40s and 50s. Very interesting indeed. When you look at it properly, you can see the detail. It's actually quite clear. Quite unbelievable. Now, if this was a lens flare, would it do that? Would it have a little dome and a spike? I don't think it would. I really don't. I really don't think it would. I think this is genuine. I don't know who it belongs to. It could be a drone. It could belong to NASA. NASA are sending drones up with the new Rover next year. There'll be drones going up, and other agencies are sending rovers to Mars and missions to Mars, and will be sending lots of miniature drones as well. There was also this other UFO. Now, this one I think may well be a lens flare, taken a bit further over again. It's looking more towards Mount Sharp. But we also have a very bright area here, reflective area of the image. So it may be reflecting off something here. There's loads and loads of buildings and strange structures here, ruins mainly. And some of them may have glass or metallic substances on them, will be made from metallic minerals or substances or glass. Who knows? Which may be why we're getting these strange reflections. Here it is up here, it's right at the top of the image. Now this looks more like a lens flare to me, or reflection, because it's very blurry. But could this also be a UFO? It's in the same area. Other UFOs have been spotted in the area recently. When you zoom in, there's not a lot of detail. This is quite a long way off, I would say. This one's a bit darker. You can see it just there. So I'm not sure about that one. This one to me looks more random, and actually does look more like a blurry kind of lens flare or reflection. So it could well be. So, and when you look at the negative of it, like I've got here, there's not a lot. It's got a sort of almost like an M shape, but not quite. Almost like a stealth aircraft, like a flying wing, almost. So there we are, there was that. I'll put clips of all these in at the end in a minute, so you can have a proper look at them, and I'll compare them back to back and put them in the same image and stuff on the same page, so you can look at them all together, and then you can compare them exactly together, okay? So I'll do that in a minute. So, but that was interesting. There are also lots of other things that look like blobs or birds flying around. There was this one, which is too vague. I mean, I've been going through a lot of these images, and these dots, these blobs appear in quite a few of them, but they're just blobs. Not enough information in those images to actually tell us anything. So they're very ambiguous, and I wouldn't normally bother with them. There's another one here, just here, which seems to have a wing sticking up or something, but not enough information in the image because it's too far away. The only reason that these are even worth looking at is because they're quite large. Let's look at that one again. And you can see the dome on this one where I've darkened it. The dome starts to show up more. It's not so prevalent when you turn it to negative. You can't see it so well. But you can see that spike. Look at the spike. Now, would a lens flare or a reflection have a spike like that? I really don't think so. I really do not think so. So there we are. So, as I said, clip's coming up in a minute. I'll quickly compare it to this one. This is the bird. Let me show you the bird again, because a lot of you may not have seen this. I'll show you that now. This was the bird UFO that I published the other day. I didn't find this. This was spotted by Marcello Irazusta on the 24th. So not that long ago, only a couple of weeks back. 2 or 3 weeks back, actually. But this was the one doing the rounds on the YouTube and stuff the last few days. And this was interesting because, like those other two I've just shown you, it's very straight. It has a very straight part to it, and what looks like a very faint dome underneath. So it may be the same thing, but why would it show up as black and not white? It has something underneath. You can just about, in fact, if you look at the smaller one just here, you can see there's a little round thing just there. It's not very obvious, but it's there. And this does look like a wing, but I wonder whether this is the same object we're seeing, and it goes from black to white depending on what sort of state it's in, or whether it's got a lighter background or whatever. Because the thing is, if you look at some of these images, I do wonder whether they've been flipped. Now this has got a light background, a very dark foreground, an extremely bright UFO thing. This thing has got a very dark sky, so it turns up, it looks white against the sky. And this one is also white against the sky, but the sky isn't quite as dark. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. Is it the same thing? I think it could well be. I think that all of these objects may be the same thing flying around, and I don't think it's a bird. It's unlikely. The black one maybe, but I don't think it is. I'm not going to rule it out because we don't really know, but they've all got very similar details. They've got this kind of dome thing with a spike sticking up, like this one here and this one here. They're very similar. This looks like the same thing to me, just a different angle from a slightly different perspective and different distance. So this is really quite interesting, I think. Whereas this one, maybe this is the same thing. We're seeing it maybe manoeuvring and hover and sort of flying across this way, and we're looking at the top of the wing and not at its side on. Is it possible that's the same thing again? Could it be a flying wing shape? Because if you look at this one, hang on, sorry, not this one, this one, it's got a wing, but that just may be the way it's angled. It's got a faint dome underneath as well. So it could be something that's like a drone or some kind of mechanical device that's keeping an eye on the rover. Perhaps it's one of NASA's, perhaps it belongs to the US military. Who knows? It may not be Martian at all. It could be from somewhere else completely different. We really have no idea. So it's pure speculation on my part here, really, as to where it comes from. I couldn't tell you. So there we are. That's all I'm going to say really about this. I mean, it's just crazy. There's the larger image, and also you've got this massive structure on Mount Sharp here, which is very interesting, just here. And when you look at the negative of the image, I did a negative of it somewhere, which is here. You've got these big structures on Mount Sharp. So maybe it is a reflection off Mount Sharp, but look at it. It's got a dome on the top of it. Why would a reflection have a dome? It doesn't make any sense to me. You've got that dome. It's a bit faint, but it's there, and it's in both of them. And even the bird-shaped thing seems to have a little dome underneath it. So I think it's the same thing, buzzing around. And it's been up there for weeks and weeks, and perhaps when I have time to go through all the other navcam images, I'll spot it again even further back, and maybe no one bothered to look. Could this be the same thing flying around? It's possible. It's all in the same area. all in the same area. These are all taken within weeks of each other, these images. So something's going on near Mount Sharp, near the Rover, and it's being watched. Now, whether this is one of ours, one of theirs, or whoever, don't know. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Clips coming up now.